Hey y'all, this is Lethea with Farm View Creators. Today let's work on the wagon insert called Fall Vibes. I love this kit. I went ahead and sprayed beforehand any piece that had score lines so that they would show up better as I worked on them. And then I'm going in with Windsor Gray from Amy Howard at Home. It is a gel stain. I like how nicely it goes on. I am putting that down as a base coat, and then I'm going to go in with FolkArt Crackle Medium. Make sure if you ever use this product, and I hope you do because I love it, that you shake, shake, shake. The more you shake, the better it's going to turn out. You also want to try to get even coats of it. The thicker it is, the larger your crackle, the thinner, the smaller your crackle. Now I'm going to go in on my circle with Paint Couture's Vintage White in matte. I did not water this down like I normally do because I intend on sanding it down a little bit. If you look closely, you can still see those score lines, and that worked out. Then I'm wrapping up my brush because I am going to go back to that color later. And now I'm going in on my candle pieces with Paint Couture Mineral Acrylic Paint in the color Peacock. This is one of my favorite colors of all time. I like non-traditional colors. I'm not a fan of orange, so I don't use it very much. But I love teals and purples and greens and blues, so that's what I gravitate towards. So I hit that with 2 coats, painting with the grain. And then I want to kind of clean up my area. And I'm going to make a sticky board with my painter's tape to stick all my little pieces to. When you have fresh tape, they stick really good, so I like to kind of hang them off of the piece a little bit so that when I pull them up, that I don't have any chance of them breaking or cracking. I do use my sticky board several times before I make a new one, so the next time I can put the pieces on more securely on the full tape. I'm using a sponge dauber with my Peacock on those letters. It just works better for those thin letters to use the sponge daubers instead of a brush. A lot of times when I try to use a brush, I'll have a lot of paint gooped up in the holes of the letters, and I really don't like that. And then I'm going to go in with that same vintage white. I'm watering it down this time, and I'm going to do the inner, it's supposed to be the wrap around a candle. I want to make sure that those letters come through, so that's why I watered it down, and I brushed over it very well, and I'm going to give it a good dry. Now I'm going to go in with Pinecone on my acorns, and I don't have to paint the full thing because it has a little cap on top of it, and I'm going to do a layer of pitch black on the lantern, on the acorns and the lantern. I only did 1 coat because this paint is so vibrant that a lot of times you only need 1 coat. And then I watered down my Pinecone for my acorn toppers because it does have little score lines. And then I decided I wanted to go in with Madagascar Mocha, 1 coat on top of that Pinecone on the acorns to give it a more muted look so that the caps and the acorns would have a little bit of a difference to them. And then I just got the tips of my candles and the stems of my pumpkins with that pitch black and the Pinecone colors, and I'm hitting my letters with another coat now that they've had time to dry. And I'm going to go in and work on my pumpkins with Kale Sprout, which is the purple color, and Autumn Sage, which is one of my favorite green shades right now. I tend to get on a kick where I use one color a lot. So right now I'm using that Autumn Sage a lot. and I wet my brush before I went in to paint because the pumpkins do have score lines and I do want those to continue to show up. And then on the kale sprout, I wanted it to be a little bit more vibrant, so I did not water down my brush as much, and I went on and did a second layer. And now I am using, I think it's Sunrise on my candles, and hitting that with 2 layers, drying in between. And then I'm going to go in with my leaves and use that barn door red that is so pretty. I originally thought that I would just do the red, but I didn't really like how they looked with my pumpkins. So I decided I would go in with eggplant, and I wanted to have a kind of watercolor look, vibe to it. So at first I just kind of brushed on the eggplant, and then I put more paint, water on it. Then I decided I would spray the leaves and just kind of dab the purple on, and it worked so well, y'all. I just love how those leaves turned out. Then I gave those a really, really good dry because it was wet and thick. And then I'm checking my pieces that have the crackle on it because you want to make sure that it's nice and dry. And then you just put 1 coat of paint over that crackle. If you brush on a lot of times and you repeatedly go over the same spot, you're going to lose your crackle. So you got to move quick, and you got to do just 1 coat without brushing over it continuously. In my experience, the thicker your paint is, the better your crackle is. So you'll notice that when I'm drying, how that crackle is coming through so well, but where that paint is thicker, you have better crackle. Now I'm going to go in and sand my circle backboard, and you know me, I'm going to go in with my Debbie's DIY Dark Wax is my favorite. And I'm going to distress, and I'm kind of buffing into those score lines, especially on those candles, because I want to bring out the wording on those candles. And look how well it did. Those score lines just soaked up that wax. And then I'm hitting a lot of the pieces, not all of them this time, like I normally do. Like, I did not want to mess up my watercolor effect on my leaves, so I left those alone. I decided I'd leave my words alone. But I am going to hit the sides of those candles, and they do have some score lines, so I tried to hit those score lines as well. And now I'm going to go in and distress around the lantern. That lantern has pieces on top, so I just kind of brush it through the middle. On the label piece, I went ahead and hit the edges and the middle. Now I'm going to use art glitter glue, and I'm going to glue my pieces together. Normally I go ahead and put my top coat on before I glue together, but I'd already taken them off the sticky board, so yeah, I just went with it. Putting those pieces together, they fit so snugly. Isn't that cute? I love it. So on the Hello Fall circle, you can see the score lines in the backboard, and then you have your letters that are popping. You've got your 2 layers on your acorns, and then the watercolor leaves. And I just am so tickled with how it turned out. I love art glitter glue because it does not make your fingers sticky, and it dries clear, so you'll see sometimes my pieces kind of wiggle out of my hands or drop or fall because I was in a clumsy mood today. But it doesn't really matter because it's going to dry clear. I did wipe up a little bit on top of that crackle because I wanted to make sure that you could still see that crackle. I didn't want it to affect that. Those pumpkin pieces in the lantern are tiny little grooves for the stems, so you have to get them just right. But once you have them lined up, it goes in like butter. And there you have the lantern. And now I'm going to work on the letters. I like to spell out my words first because I have been known to misspell things. Even though I'm a teacher, I still misspell stuff. The score lines do still show up with the Crackle, but you have to kind of tilt it. So I needed the light to hit it just right. So that's why I kind of lift it up and I'm leaning forward to make sure that I am getting the letters straight and lining up with those score lines. And then there you go. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to take the end of a paintbrush and I'm going to do little accent dots. I like the character that this gives. This time I decided not to put any dots on my words and just accented all of the little pieces. On the candles, I decided that I wanted to accent where that score line is to show the top of the candle versus the sides. So now I'm going to go in with my dead flat, and I highly recommend going ahead and doing this before you glue your pieces together, because especially in between those letters, it was kind of difficult to get the dead flat in there. I love the dead flat because it does take out any shine. I'm in my matte era, so I love it. It also protects the paint. So I'm going to give that a really, really, really good dry. And then here's the wagon. This is a different kit, and then I have my grillin' and chillin' in there now. So I'm going to switch that out. You just take out those little hooks. Some new hooks did come with the Fall Vibes kit. So you just slide those in, and then you're going to slide that on the top. When you get the wagon kit, it does come with several different size hooks, so you can decide how you want it to hang on your wagon. And there we have it. I love it. I hope you do too. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and like and comment. I'll see you later. Bye.